What would you play against magnanimous Carpelspank in Game 2, quarterfinals, Chessable Masters, online elite grandmother chess? Well, we're about to find out because Yangyi plays pawn to e4 best by test. This is a great game with a double brilliancy to come and a shocking finish. You're gonna love it. Magnus goes c5 now, the aggressive Sicilian. We get knight f3, the second knight develops, and bishop b5, done with a whoosh, is the Rossolimo. Magnus selects this variation. You could castle, but we see the pawn structure shattered, giving up the bishops, usually a boo-boo, but d3 highlights the solid pawn structure. Black's got to babysit these ones. And some of the main moves I'm drawing on the board, but Magnus goes for this one. Real sideline, he loves it. Castles is now played, and e5 clamps on those dark squares. a4, a5, like a pawn fist bump in the middle of the board. We get knight a3 headed for the center, bishop g7, it hits the square, and bishop e6 hints at shattering those pawns, so b3 sets up that v-wing pawn structure. George Lucas would be proud here, and after knight f6, that pawn's pressured in the center twice, but no good to capture. If you go with this knight, then b5 dislodges the defender, it'll soon drop. If you go with this knight, then there's this common tactical motif. It's knight takes on e4, and you open up here, and that one's about to drop. Whoops, that was a bad arrow. And okay, you can take here, but then there's problems with your own knight and the rook in the corner. It doesn't work. Pawn untouchable. So bishop b2 hits it 3 times, but now we get knight d7, drops back, covers it for the 3rd time. Knight g5 prepares to shatter the structure, and so that's why takes here is played. You're generally advised to capture back towards the center with your pawns. h6 on the board puts the question. You could drop to f3, but this one's played. Normally a stinky move, sticking it on the edge, limited life prospects there. What a wiener schnitzel, and it looks like you're going to go f4. But after castles, it's not played. It just looms in the air now, move after move after move. Instead, Yangyi goes rook b1. Does make some sense too, but apparently b5 is now strong. No clue why it wasn't the move before. That's where the metal monsters shine, but okay, Magnus didn't play it. He plays rook a8, we're going to see his intentions. Bishop c3 activates 2 pieces. b6 played to hold the structure together, though it is a bit ugly. Backwards pawn can be targeted. You whispers, do you even rook lift, bro? And Magnus now sets out his stall with f5. This is why he stats the rooks. This is why he's fired the cannonballs, and there's a big positional threat now to push on with this one and lock this one out of the game in a very ugly way. So you could take, played in the game, and then go f4. Really natural continuation, but again not selected. We see queen h5 instead. Does beg the question, what if f4? Well, then you can go f3 and you can circle back the horse and wagon, bring it into one of these light squares. White's still doing okay, quite well actually. So we run back, no f4 from Magnus. He goes queen d6, looking to bring that one back from the gulags of Siberia, covers g6, again f4, very playable, plus you could yell rah and charge in a kind of strong lion voice, but not done. Rook e1 instead. I guess you didn't want to damage his king position, right? You know, keep it safe. Magnus goes rook e7, doing some small piece improvement, and after this one drops back. No one likes split rooks. Check out Danny King if you want more on that saying. Power Play Chess, excellent channel, been watching for a decade plus. We now see knight f6, and it's a bit of a blunder because after the queen is hit, it comes to g6. Now Magnus brings this rook into the game, so there's no time to actually take this pawn. You know, the knight left the defense when it moves, but if you take it now, the knight jumps back, hits the rook and the queen, so the queen gets out of dodge. And now the only way to stay kind of okay on the bar over here is f4. but Magnus sidelines like this. I was probably a bit harsh to call this a blunder earlier, but a mistake anyway. But this one much more of a blunder, because queen h4 hits the knight, hits the pawn, and now what are you doing? Well, Magnus finds a way to mix it up. You could drop back, just shed this pawn, but he plays pawn e4 and things are now going nuts, because if you take the knight on h5, black takes the bishop here and you're hitting the rook here, so no time to take here, and things are fine. So instead we see bishop takes on g7, knight recaptures, this was the point, you can just make it work, and now you're not in time to pick up this pawn. Looks so natural, because look at that. Bar absolutely plummets, heart attack there, because after takes here, black is actually now winning the game. There's this tension here and what to do. Say you trade the rooks, then there's this great move, takes on c2. You can even have my queen if you want, because you're making a baby girl and you've got back rank issues and you just can't get back. You can do this, but then this. What are you doing? You're getting slammed, queen being made, etc. So we didn't see the pawn taken. You have to respond to this threat here. So knight f4 is played, the rook saves itself. Again, you can't take, same tactical problems. So this queen slips back, covers the pawn, also x-rays the king. Now we see takes on d3. This one recaptures, a pair of rooks go into the blender, and the king gets on its running shoes, trying to escape the danger. Queen f3, nice move, breaks the pin. You could activate the knight. You look at this pawn. We now see rook e8 offering an exchange, but no siree. This one slides over. It's great play, great understanding. Why trade the rooks? Help black's defensive task. This one is much stronger. So this one now played to cover the pawn. Obviously you had to watch the back rank, but that's now taken care of. No one's getting branked today. We now see rook b7, rook e1, a little bit of tickle, not literally under the armpit. That's not been done for many years now. The etiquette has changed, plus they're online, but tickle on the board. And now really this is the moment where you has to start squeezing here. Snap on the old medical gloves, right? Probe Magnus, go to work in a non-weird way. h4, king g2, knight h5. It's really difficult to hold this position together. Exposed king, weak pawns galore. Magnus just eats this for breakfast, right? But what do we see? Queen e2, rook e7, don't blunder your queen, rook b7 back, queen f3, queen f6, and it's like you just can't find the idea. So he plays knight d5, but it's not the one. Now it sets up a tactical shot. You take me, I take you with check, pick up rookie in the corner, but that wasn't done, of course. The queen saves itself. This was apparently more precise, and now we see you just crack here under the pressure of playing Magnus. He should go knight c3, retain an advantage, simply because after knight e3, he's blocked the defense of his own pawn. Magnus doesn't need asking twice, snaffles that one off the board, hits the unprotected rook on b1, and also covers f5 twice, so white can't crash through here. Crazy turn of events. Rook d1, queen e4 offers the exchange, and you doesn't have much better now. If you go queen e2, well, what a centralized monster that one is, right? So we do see takes. The queens leave the board, and just listen to Magnus's fans. I mean, bleating away. He's the GOAT of the end game. Why do they support him so hard? Well, it's for moments like this. He spends time with the fans. Here he is with Barry from Nebraska, a real GOAT that loves chess. Magnus spent an afternoon with him, teaching him. This is what he does so well. It's why the GOATs love the GOAT of the chess game. Now we see rook d6, hits 2 pawns here, but Magnus has got a great response to this double whammy. He plays pawn b5. And we get this big liquidation. Rook recaptures, this one drops. It's now 3 on 3 with whites being connected, but black suddenly looking more dangerous. Forget Eval Barovic over here. This is far from level in practical terms. Knight e6 is now played. Knight c4 threatens to go to Forktown, so Magnus quickly steps out the forking way with the rook, hits the knight, sheds a pawn, yes, but Now he plays the explosive c4. It's running and it's running fast. So check is played. Now this one here, couple more checks. Now this one, and you should immediately go to h8 to swing round to c8. But wasn't played. We get this one slipped in. Now king f6 covers, but look what's going on over here. Let us not forget that the bar has just dropped butt flap open, because now when you do this and this and this, there's a subtle difference. We're going to see what it is. After knight d4 from Magnus, excellent tactical move, saying you take my pawn, I check you here, win your rook, therefore it's immune. This is the crunch moment where the king shouldn't be on f6, it should be on g6. Because if it's on g6, you can go knight c6, right? Hit these two guys, and what's the move? Knight f3 check. Now if the king steps to g2, this is the way the variation goes if the rook had come to h8 immediately. Well, now here in this position, you can go knight e7 check, because the king's on g6, remember, if you hadn't forced it to f6. And long story short, you pick up the pawn. You do give a knight, but there should be enough play coming round, picking up this pawn somehow, and these should be enough to draw the game. Fine, let's head back to things. This is not possible with the king on f6. Therefore, king g2. Now we see c2 supported by the knight here, and after rook c3, Magnus has this simple winning plan. Rook b1, push the pawn, game over. Now this is strange. You know, he's world number one. He does stuff like that in an absolute flash, a minute on the clock as well. But he goes for just a completely different, more unusual idea, but very swashbuckling, right? He plays pawn to e3. Now that can be captured in two different ways. If you go with the rook, obviously bad. The queen is made. So what about this? This is what's played. You can't really leave it, you know, it's going to march through. So this is played, right? It hits the knight, which is defending the pawn. So knight moves, pawn's going to drop. There's no checks on the white king. So that's not the tactical idea here. You know, what is going on? How does Magnus Carlsen now pull two brilliancies from his derriere here? This is quite special. What he does here is rook b2 brilliancy, because if the knight's captured, then you make the queen with the check, and this is why he opened up the second file. I mean, it wasn't even the best way to go. He should have played rook b1 earlier on, but this is such a cooler way to turn the screw here. So king f1 steps out the tactics, but now again the same theme is used. This is such a cool move. Knight to e2, you hit the rook, and again the king can't capture, or you make this queen. I was going to think of a name beginning with C, but it escapes me. I don't know, Colette or something. You make that one, and it's game over once more. You even pick up the rook or checkmate, whatever, right? So instead, we see the knight not touched. The rook has to move. It checks, very natural. And there's only one winning move here, which is quite incredible. And Magnus finds it. It's king f5. Now, I did not look down all the lines here as to why this is the only winning move. Too much, too deep, coming up to 11 o'clock here at night. So we'll stick with the game. Knight b3 now played, saying you take me, I take on e2, and you can no longer queen with check because I've decoyed your rook. So Magnus ignores. King e4, again given the exclam, only winning move in the position apparently. This is nuts. And now you're threatening to win the pawn on e3. And if you check, the king marches in. You can check again, the king marches in. And now you're hitting a knight. Don't check anymore. Long story short, you're getting way too active. You know, pawn is going through in these lines. So instead, we see knight d2 check. But now king d3 is played. Not takes on e3. Why not? Knight c4 check. Then the king goes somewhere. Let's say here. Okay, and the rook's still behind the pawn, I guess. Fine. I'm hesitating a bit because we see something similar in the game. Magnus plays king d3 here. We get check. Now he takes the pawn, and I guess this is the subtle difference. I've just realised the rook's now on the d file, not on the c file. This endgame's just blowing my mind. Now we get the check. Now the king steps here, and this time it's different. You can't take the rook. the black rook because this white rook's not sitting on the c-file. So the check was played, but king f5, Magnus just running away now because rook c6, you make the baby girl, yes you can capture, but knight takes back, this one about to drop, saves itself, but pawn drops here. This is now terminal because the white king is in this box. It's completely game over. Magnus is just going to mop it up. But no, we see something honestly out of this world, bad and incredible, right? This is truly a shocking move. Magnus has got 14 seconds on the clock and he plays king to e5, leaving that fork on. I mean, this is more shocking than walking into a McDonald's and ordering a fillet of fish with a side of carrot sticks. I mean, who does that? What you can play here is this. But we've gone to the Batcave, analysis mode, the board's grayed out. This did not happen. And of course, this is just a dead draw. You win the rook. Yes, white's got the extra pawn, but you can bring your knight back around, sacrifice somehow, it will be a draw. But not played, missed. Instead, we see king g1 hitting the rook. This is insane. Super grandmothers. Now this one moves. Now the check comes. One step too late. King e4 marches in. Check. King f3. But look at this now. I mean, you're just in a world of pain. The check is played. If you want to step up the board thinking, hurrah, I'm getting out of the box, I'm escaping, well, you can do this and win the knight. You know, it's a discovered check. Leads to mate very soon. If you go this way, there's this checkmate. You get forced back like this. That's mate. And if you do as we saw in the game, king f1, well, now there's a new kind of checkmate. Bang, you do it from the back rank. This is where the game ended with a mate, move 72. Now that was a hell of a battle. Magnus took it, the match, 2.5, half. He advances to the semis. Hikaru's there as well. I forget who else, maybe Ali Reza. Some great players, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Have a look at the video on screen for some more epic chess, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.